Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today we're getting 3 urgent messages from your spirit team. So these could range from the most practical through to the most spiritual, the most short term through to the most long range. We'll just get a sense of that as we go through the reading. One of them relates to the card here for choice, and there are 2 other cards from the deck that I'm using there beneath that, which will be the other 2 messages, and we'll see to what degree they're connected and to what degree they're separate as we go through the reading. What inspired me to do this is that this is an oracle deck that is made by the same creator as the Somnia Tarot, so we're going to use the Somnia Tarot. It's a very evocative art style that the creator uses, and you'll see the synergy between the sort of imagery that's used in the oracle and the sort of imagery that's used in the Somnia Tarot. To me, Somnia suggests the world of dreams, the world of spirit, hence why I felt that this would be messages coming direct to you from your spirit team. But when you're doing this, sort of like think of it in that sense, like the sort of dreams the sort of messages and so forth that come through dreams and the liminal. So as I say, they may prove to be very, very practical and 3D. They may prove to be more spiritual, or a bit of a combination of all of those things. So we're going to look at the 3 messages as they're depicted by the oracle. Then we're going to use tarot to learn more about each of those and see to what degree they're connected. And then we're going to use a number of other oracles to just get some other information about these messages for you. So you can, of course, go to more than one reading if you like. There might be more than 3 messages for you, or there might be a combination across them that actually makes it resonate more. That's completely up to you. But to help with the choice, I shuffled and asked Spirit for each pile one of the messages that we could actually show, or one of the representations of the message, let's put it that way, for the choice. So for pile number 1, we have the horizon. For pile number 2, we have the pioneer. And for pile number 3, you probably can't quite read this, but it is the reckoning. So go to whichever one or whichever ones draw you, or the one, number that you usually go to, whatever suits you. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, timestamps as always are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the horizon, which just as it's depicted here, speaks to me of a journey that you're about to go on, or as the actual deck booklet that comes with the deck talks about, maybe the first stage of a journey done, and you can see more clearly what the major journey is. And why I think what the book was saying really fits is the other 2 messages here. I do think we're looking at a combined message, to be honest, here, and I think it's a reflection on probably a difficult time, a self-exploration, a going within the shadow, literally, that you've been through. And now you're at the horizon to see the illumination and the new light pathway for you to go towards. So I think this is actually very, very promising as a message. But I think what is interesting is that the shadow is, as part of the message here, is about those aspects of ourselves that we want to hide away, or we feel ashamed of, or we think we've acted out, that we now regret that we've acted out. And if we don't integrate those and recognize them, of course, we can project them out on others. So this is suggesting that there has been a bit of a dark night of the soul, maybe a sense of isolation, seeing how the figure looks there. And you have brought some of that up or understood it. And I think that is the journey that you've been on. And I do think this is saying that better is coming, because you're heading towards what looks like the illumination. And then we have the illumination. And this card does talk about having brought the shadows up to the light, having understood that about ourselves. But it is important that we recognize where in our life that has happened. It may be more than one place. And whether there's anything still there that has not been uncovered yet, because see how the person, looks like a person under there has not been uncovered yet. And what does that mean for the journey? Like what do you do now? Where are you going now? So I think that this sort of urgency of the message from your spirit team's perspective is not to carry the baggage of that, but to continue the concept of going towards illumination, and what might that look like. So let's see with tarot. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to start with this one actually, because I think there's actually a sequence here. This is not necessarily the first point of this. This is where you've come from, this is where you are, and this is where you're going, I think. But we will see what tarot says, and we might see there's some difference between them. So that in itself will be interesting. So with each of them, we're just going to do a row. So I'm just going to ask first for a little bit more of the message about the shadow. What does your spirit team want you to know about that? Two of Coins, the Magician reversed, Strength, Nine of Swords reversed, Wheel of Fortune reversed. Okay. So I think for this group, part of your shadow might have been where you have made choices that you're not proud of and that you maybe feel guilty about. And I think that you did them for material reasons, material choices to try and improve your fortune. But in doing it, you found that didn't occur. So either you went towards some sort of opportunity, it didn't turn out to be what you expected it to be, or you put more emphasis on material outcomes and emotional ones, and that didn't end up as you wanted. So there's an issue here about choice and fortune. Part of your shadow energy that your spirit team wants you to look at is, to what degree do you feel you have choice, and to what degree do you feel you are kind of caught up in fortune and it's whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I think that's an important message of integrating of your shadow when you're about to go on the next stage of a journey towards greater illumination, because your spirit team want you to move towards strength. They want you to build from the work that you've done and release the guilt and release the issues, but also recognize where you've maybe bargained with yourself or with others or with the universe in a way that feeds the shadow rather than what the illuminated person would do. So we all do this. So this is not meant as a criticism. It's just that your spirit team wants you to understand that where you have tended to either lie to yourself or potentially to others, or to, or be a little bit hidden in what you're doing in a situation or something like that, you gave strength to worry rather than dealing with your worry by strength. And this is to be more open. I do actually think too, the fact that we've got two figures there, I think when we've got the Two of Pentacles here, this could be a choice about who you want to be going forward, like which of those figures. And I think there's a energy here that's saying go towards the one that's carrying the light and the illumination and is pointing to the future, whereas this one is holding back a bit more and does not seem to have a lamp. So I think there could be an energy here saying choose going towards illumination and learning more. Don't be afraid of what you've actually uncovered about yourself. This is not anything other than human, really. But if you understand where you bargain because you're trying to make choices and avoid fate, or you could potentially create fate by not integrating your shadow, that's a very human thing. But the strength is to move away from the worry and to move forward with confidence and to be less worried about, is this my choice or not? It should be more, I am accepting what I find. I'm accepting the light. I'm going to see what's coming. So I do think there's a sense where you feel you either bargained with yourself in a way that wasn't entirely honest, or with others, or with the universe, because you wanted to have more control over the choices available. You've kind of accepted you can't do that, and you're letting go. And the thing about the Wheel of Fortune reversed is it will always turn the other way. So this is really, once you start the journey towards the light, that the more you turn that around. So let's see where you are right now. As I say, I do think there's a choice here. You could fall back more into the shadow, but that's not necessarily going to solve your issue or help you. Or you can move more towards the light, but that may uncover more that you're a little bit uncomfortable with, but which will nevertheless ultimately be more honest within yourself and more able to sort of move forward positively. So what do we know about the horizon? What is the horizon to you? Tower reversed, Ace of Coins, Five of Swords reversed, Justice reversed, the Hierophant reversed. Okay. So this is telling us a little bit about some of the shadow as well. As I was saying, I think these things are connected together. One of the things, when you've got the Magician reverse and the Hierophant reverse, I feel for many of you this is about spiritual choice. I mean, there could be material aspects to it. It could have played out in a career or something like that. But this is fundamentally a spiritual choice. And it's a choice towards what is authentic and what you can grow yourself and what you would stand by no matter what, and that which you have to let go of or walk away from. The Hierophant reverse and the Magician reverse tell me that the illumination of this is what is the truth underneath the belief structures, foundations, and so forth. This almost feels like you tried to manifest, I think, and it didn't work. That's kind of how it looks to me in a way. And part of that, as I say, is it's like it was not the right bargain. It was like bargaining rather than just simply starting with something and creating it and just sticking with it and taking it step by step. So I think what this is saying is just as this journey is step by step, like something I think caused the journey in the first place for you. And I think it was because you tried to manifest something or tried to make something happen and it didn't really work. And yet you felt like I had the strength to do it. Why wasn't it working? But it was kind of baked into the shadow of the issue, which was around not being honest about sort of fate and fortune or whatever, just thinking all the choices were yours when some of them weren't. And so it may well have affected other people or other situations. But this is showing that once you realize that, that's part of the journey done. Now you have to stick with it, even where sometimes you feel like things are unjust or you feel like even you were unjust in what you did, because you're meant to create something new, something. It's like you've got to go back a step. It's like you went too far into something before you were ready to do it, and you kind of fooled yourself and maybe others that you were ready, but the timing wasn't right. This is kind of what it's saying. So it was like you've got to recognize that that wasn't right. You've got to stick with it even when it didn't work before, because you're doing something that's almost heretical or different to what others around might see, and you have to take it gradually, and it's new. So it's like trying to succeed with something new and something that's very much you in a very set environment. And it's not saying you can't do it. It's saying that thinking that you just would have the choice to do it and you can just go in, you were fooling yourself. And it was not wanting to face the shadow, which is that you are different to others and you're going to have to gradually shift something to make it happen. So, and it would be very easy to walk away from it now, not go on the journey, go it's too hard, or what I see is too different to what I want it to be. But this is saying stick with it. You can bring things back into balance, into justice and everything. And if you are feeling a bit bad for whatever reason, you don't need to. You're going to be able to stick with creating something that is better. So it really does want you to keep doing what you're doing. Just be aware of the whole journey and what is your choice and what isn't your choice, I think. So then what does Spirit want to say to you about illumination? What are you meant to see? 7 of Wands, Knight of Coins, Ace of Wands, 9 of Wands, 5 of Coins. Okay. You are being called to be dedicated to something. 5 of Swords reverse, the Knight of Coins. You're being called, and it's going to be slower than you would want it to be, but it has, like with both the Ace of Coins here and also with the Ace of Wands here, it's something new and something vibrant and something that has a lot of potential. But it'll take all your energy. This is a long journey. The illumination is sort of like you can now see the horizon is like it's a long way away. The illumination, like it's a long process, but you are ready to do it. You have what you need to do it. You've just got to be dedicated to it and just take that first step, and then that will take you eventually to the finish line. But you may find you have to travel alone, or that it costs you a bit to get there. You may not, because you're doing something different. This also feels like not only are you separating from your own shadow energy to go forward in a more illuminated way, but possibly stepping away from those who want to stay in the shadow energy. So this could be for some of you that you want to follow something that is more spiritually attuned to your life, and you want to make it part of, I guess, your vocation or your career or something. That will require you to do the road less traveled. I think that's really what this is saying. And it's a long process, has a lot of potential, but you have to just stick at it. Like the very big energy here is don't fall back. Move forward. Illumination will be worth it, but it will cost you a bit in terms of energy and time. but you're ready for this. That's what your spirit team's trying to say. And whatever this is, whether it's around career or, I mean, I don't think it's really around a relationship or anything like that. I think it's around career or spiritual vocation or something like that. But it will show you a lot about yourself, and it will show you how resilient you can be, and that you didn't really need to bargain because it was always there within you. It was the bargaining that slowed you down and maybe made you feel a bit trapped, but you're now ready to move forward. Okay, so let's see what kind of potentially opposites or balancing energies are operating for each stage of this using the soul mirror oracle. So when the first one where you kind of got a little bit off path by, I think, wanting to be ready to run before you could walk and maybe not being completely honest with yourself. And this is why you had to go through the shadow process. What was the kind of potential opposites that you were balancing with that? Sadness, defensive or listening. Okay. Well, it makes sense that there was a sadness energy in shadow because it's not a happy area to be in. But I think that you may have been defensive. With Magician reverse, you may not have wanted to hear, and then you had to hear. So at first, maybe you didn't want to hear what potentially others thought, or whether the timing was right, or what the cost of something was. I think there is in you a very determined nature, and I think that will ultimately work for you once you dedicate it to the cause of an illuminated self. But I just feel as though there was not entitlement exactly, but a sense of like, I'm just going to do this, and you weren't necessarily listening to other people. And this actually confronted you to, if you were going to go just from yourself, to go really deeply within. So then what might you be looking at in terms of opposites or balance around the horizon when you're contemplating the next stage of the journey? Inner child, careless or receptive. Okay. So some of this goes deep. Some of this goes back to beliefs maybe from your family and from who you really want to be. Like there's a real sense of this of frustration in a way with fortune. I mean, I absolutely understand this. I think one of the things that's tricky, and when people talk about manifestation and stuff like this, and it does feel to me like you tried to manifest something, it didn't quite work, and this is now the journey to get on the path to make it work for you, is that the theory that we just kind of go within and know what we really want and just have our vision boards or whatever is all fine, but we are mixing with other people. And because we're mixing with other people, we're mixing with what they're trying to manifest and so forth. And we have to balance both of them. And that tends to slow things down, and we have to take that into account. The inner child doesn't necessarily want to do that. The inner child has that kind of innocent, this is what I'm here for, I just want to follow my path. But I think this is starting to understand that you can't be just sort of careless and rush forward. You've got to be receptive to the other as well, which then leads to illumination. So what are we seeing there? Confusion, fearful and serene. Okay, I think this is the process. I think it's not necessarily that in illumination, though it may be saying you will maybe vacillate a bit between sometimes feeling like, oh, this is all scary or a bit too hard to do. But for the most part, the worst is over, Pawan. You've done the shadow work, really. It's like get to the serene concept that, yes, this might be slower than I want, but it has potential, Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Wands. I just really have to see it through. And if I'm different to others and I'm separated from others, or, you know, if I feel lonely sometimes, that's okay. If I can just be serene that I'm heading towards the horizon, heading towards illumination, then that will be good. But sometimes, you know, when things illuminate, it's scary. We see things that we didn't want to see. I think this is, your spirit team is both saying to you, lighten up. Like, we're all human. Don't worry. You know, there's nothing awful in you. Your wish to have your wishes is no different from any other human being. But you do need to recognize that, you know, the inner child may think that should just occur, but you are dealing with other people, and you need to really know yourself and others and take into account timing and other people's needs and so forth if you're going to have the success that I think this is pointing towards you having. Okay, let's get you a planetary pairing for each. So the planetary pairing around the shadow, Sun and Venus. Okay, so for some of you, this is about finding love. I mean, it didn't really look like romance, but it may ultimately bring love. Otherwise, I think it is partly about being gentle with yourself, about the beauty and the potential of your pathway. like having been in the shadow, remember you're still a beautiful creature. You're a beautiful soul. And this is really just about finding the beauty again in your pathway, so that when you get to the horizon, you see this beautiful illuminated path ahead of you. What about the horizon? What's the energy there that your spirit team is saying? Wow, Uranus and Uranus, this is all about change. I think it's interesting too, because I almost feel like it's the two versions of Uranus. I think there's the first version, which is the shadow, which has the magician reversed and things like that. That feels a little bit, combine the magician card with Uranus, you've got something like Hokmah, but Hokmah not in the Kabbalah, not working in a good way, working in a detached too detached way, and potentially like some darker magicians want to become God sort of thing. So I'm not saying that you expressly wanted to become God, but there's that whole energy of change and breakthroughs that is more revolutionary and incendiary. And that may be partly what the energy was when you were really trying to kind of like achieve a kind of mastery. So there's that version. Then there's the version that is a bit more tempered, that had like the tower reversed and all that kind of thing. It's slowing the change down. It's there, but slowing it down, and it's making it more about change within oneself. So I think this might have been the wish to put one's will into the world externally and hitting a bit of a brick wall. And this is like now the change is within, and that allows the change to occur. But there is change and there is inspiration. That's why we've got the double ace of the Ace of Pentacles and Ace of Wands. So what about illumination? What's the kind of astrological energy around illumination for you? Jupiter and Pluto, and that is where you see the benefit of the change and the transformation. You realize it's not just inspiration and change for change's sake, but it actually has a benefic outcome, and it's a deep transformation. I think in a weird way, this is kind of the recipe for coming into true alignment as a magician, to be honest. And maybe you were not in true alignment, like whether you were thinking about it spiritually, and it's not something you're going to read in a book or anything. You've got to discover it yourself. I think for some of you, this is about the inspiration to change deeply within, to find the beauty of your life path, and then to make this a benefic energy of sort of power and transformation. So for some of you, this is deeply spiritual, but for others, it's sort of something within the material world, and it's about manifesting and understanding you in relation to others and in relation to time, I think, and how to manage time. Okay, so we're also going to get a wild card energy for each of them, and then we'll just see what synchronicities to look out for. So a wild card energy about now managing the shadow and the message of the shadow. Home, building an empire, family, money, luck on the way. Okay, there's something here about finding your true home and your true people. So for some of you, you may have found that you weren't welcomed somewhere, and that triggered some of this shadow. And maybe you felt that you were not being honest about who you were to fit in or whatever, but it just didn't shift, and you had to kind of like start to go on your own journey. But there's something about who you are at home and the true self. And the fourth house, I think, in the astrology chart. What about Uranus and Uranus with the horizon? Midnight breakfast, alternative solution, expect the unexpected, plan B. Yeah, this is, and the unexpected on steroids with Uranus twice. There is a plan B, and it is more the internal journey rather than the external journey. And then the wild card around the illumination itself, when the transformation has truly occurred. Wow, woman on fire, interested female seduction, secret admirer, news and messages. So for some of you, this is you becoming very attractive to other people or being very attracted to someone, depending upon your gender and preferences and all of that kind of thing. But otherwise, I think woman on fire to me says being, really picking up the Ace of Wands we saw there. It's to start the really creative energy and to draw in what you want and to have the power in a way that is seductive and, brings the interest and the attention of others. So there's something here about drawing in others eventually. I think it was, again, maybe there was something in relation to what you were trying to achieve, needed other people to be on your side. That didn't occur. This is the kind of shifting into something where you'd go and you change within and you do the journey within, and then you draw others to you. So it's an interesting journey we're talking about here. But I think it is Spirit trying to say, look, you're so close now. Don't give up. Keep going. So to finish off, I just want to see a sign that could come up because we have the Somnia Oracle and Somnia Tarot, which is about sleep, is a dream image or something that may come up in a dream, or it could come up synchronistically, that will let you know that you're on the right path to be using this information. It may even tell us a little bit more about it. So I just want you to choose a number between 1 and 3, because I'm going to deal out 3 cards, and depending upon which number you choose, that is the sign, synchronicity, or extra explanation for you. So pause if you need to, because I'm about to deal out. So for number 1, school or exam. For number 2, closet. And for number 3, attic. Wow, these are all tilting a lot towards the shadow. So it really is emphasizing what I felt, which is that you're probably here heading towards here, or coming out of here to head towards there. So school or exam. I don't know about you, but I every once in a while will have a dream that I need to get to some exam and I can't remember where the place is to do the exam, and I realise I haven't been to any of my lessons and I'm going to fail. And then luckily I wake up and remember that I'm not actually learning anything at the moment and I don't have to do any tests. So it's a pretty common sort of dream. But so you may well have dreams like that, dreams about that, or you may see synchronicities talking about, exam time, or, go back to school ads and that kind of thing. Otherwise, and that could just be to tell you, yes, this is a bit of an exam. This is a kind of a lesson that you're learning for yourself and that you're going to pass, and that's all good. So that could be it, or it could be that this whole process is like learning new things, feeling tested, stress and anxiety, which does fit a bit with the energy, but it's going to get better. You're going to get to serenity. You're going to get to Jupiter eventually. If you chose number 2, closet, you may still be very much in the shadow energy. And so if you are feeling that, you feel like I still feel like I'm there. I don't even feel I've seen the light yet. Know that you will. All this is saying is that more is going to come up for you in terms of what the shadow energy was. And it's a process you need to go through, because it's the first part of the journey before you can head where you want to go. You've got to kind of understand where you've come from. So you may dream about these sort of things, see synchronicities or whatever. If you chose number 3 with attic, again, it's similar. The interesting thing I feel is that, like, if you chose number 2, just jumping back, the shadow is about very deep stuff within, like deep hidden stuff within. And it feels deep. It feels like it's like either hidden in your room and like packed away, or even like in a basement or something like that. If you chose number 3, this feels like a lot of this is in your head. And I'm not saying, oh, you're imagining all of it, but the attic to me is like the top of a house. And in dream sort of interpretation, houses are often you. So the attic area and the roof area is kind of like, your mind and your beliefs. So this is saying ungrounded, fearful, hiding, searching, overthinking. It could be overthinking. It could be stop thinking about it, just kind of like go with the flow. But I think there's sort of something here where you are very of your mind. That's a very powerful thing, but it can also, if you are of your mind, you can trick yourself and trick others. So it's very important to let the light in, just like the light is coming in here. Focus on the light into your mind and making sure that it's clearly seen. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you come to the reading with the Pioneer, which to me indicates sort of someone on a journey towards something new, going to uncharted sort of territory. Pioneers always sort of went into areas in the world that hadn't been explored before, set up new sort of communities, all of that kind of thing. So there's a sense here of going to uncharted areas, and that you may well be lone in doing that, though others may follow, but often pioneers went ahead of the group to do something and then were followed by the group. So I think there's a message here about something new that you're going to pioneer. It could be a new type of belief or spiritual path. It could be a new creative endeavor. It could be a new business. It could be a new social approach to things, political approach. Could be anything really, but it is something uncharted. So there's something within you that is unique. And I think that, in fact, these other two messages, the haven and the impasse, are actually kind of connected to this. They may also be talking about some separate things as well too. So we'll see what the tarot tells us. But the haven is the still point within, where we truly come within ourselves and understand ourselves, and it's mindfulness and the value of stillness and so forth. And again, it looks like there's a lone person near this tree. There's a lone person who's a bit further away from the tree, so you could almost say this is a starting point within the stillness of yourself to really know yourself and potentially your life path and why you're here. That makes me think of the tree of life. Having the stillness and the understanding of that, then one actually starts to move away from that towards manifesting it. But the interesting thing with the impasse talks about if you are a lucid dreamer, you can reach a point where you become aware that you're dreaming. And sometimes that opens up opportunities, and sometimes you get too self-conscious and you kind of get stuck. And so what the creator here was trying to do was show a similar sort of thing about sometimes we get too self-conscious. And because of that, we stop being able to do what we would otherwise naturally be able to do. So if you are swimming, for instance, if you start to get too self-conscious about the fact that you're doing the breathing and so forth, you might not be able to keep it going naturally. There's a point at which, or when we learn to drive a car and we go from conscious incompetence through to unconscious competence, it's if we actually stopped and really thought about it all again, piece by piece, we'd slow ourselves down. So I feel as though this is telling you that there's a point at which stillness and self-awareness is important. And there's a point at which it becomes something, the very thing that stops you. So to be the pioneer, if you think about how that balances out, when you are going off to do something new, pioneer something in your own life or whatever it might be, you've got to take with you the capacity of movement, understanding self and all those sort of things and what your purpose in general is. So you keep moving. But if you become really aware of yourself doing it, you may slow yourself down, or you may get self-conscious, or you may find yourself blocked, not really by the external world, but by being too aware of everything. So it becomes paralyzing. If we were completely aware of everything that was going on in our bodies right now, we'd probably go mad. If you think about all that your blood is doing, various organs in your body are doing, all of that kind of thing, it's like it would be too much. So I think this is like getting the balance of true self-understanding in relation to action and moving forward, but not becoming so because one is alone or doing something new and relying on self, becoming so self-conscious that you actually stop yourself from the development. So it's that kind of energy I think we're talking about here. And they might play out in different parts of your life. So we're going to have a look with the tarot. And I originally was going to do the main card first, but I do think this, and in one of the other readings so far, it's been almost like the beginning point, and then it goes to there, and then it goes to there. So I think there's a logic to it. So we're going to start with the haven. What does your spirit team want to say to you about using that safe inner still space? How to use that best at the moment? 8 of Coins reversed, the Hanged Man, Knight of Swords reversed, 5 of Cups, the World reversed. Okay. Firstly, it's saying you're very good at this. I would say the people who've come to this reading are very good at like meditation or shamanic journeying or something that takes you into that stillness, mindfulness, any of those things. With the 8 of Coins, you've mastered this, whether you've consciously done it or whether it's come through in a number of lives, you've mastered this, and you can suspend animation in a way. You can go within, you can make a contemplation, and you can look at things differently. So you're a master at doing that, and like it's slowing things down to allow your mind to slow down. So that's important and good, to not get overheated with your mind either. Like when we can go into a stillness and within, we can maybe overdo it sometimes. So you're very, very good at that side of things. But you might be being nudged now to do the pioneer and the other thing, because it's almost as though maybe getting very good at that has been a compensation for things that haven't completed in your world. Or when you've been disappointed, you're very good at going in and processing that energy. But what your spirit team is talking about is it's time now to complete something, to complete the cycle. That's step one. You've got to do this step as well. And you've got to know how to balance that and not be too much within self, but also in the world, not too much in your spirit path, but also in the material world. I think this is spirit just sort of saying, like, you're so good at one side of it. That could also be, of course, the reason why there's the risk on the other side of it. If you're so good at knowing yourself and being within yourself, does that potentially stop you from completing something? So it's something to think about. So then the pioneer, if you go, okay, I'm going to move away from just the contemplation towards the exploration. What do we get there? The Sun reversed, Ten of Cups, the Lovers reversed, Death, Six of Swords reversed. Okay. So some of this is about how you want to relate to others. I do think this is saying this group extremely good at the meditation, extremely good at going within, all of that kind of thing. But the other thing they can do, apart from not completing things, is that sometimes it can detach you from others. And again, being too self-conscious or too focused on self can detach you from others. There's sort of something here about don't just slow down to go within, but slow down to reconnect with others because you're a little bit detached. And it's going to be inevitable to some degree when you're going to somewhere new that you are on your own, in figuratively at least. But it's sort of saying don't detach so much because there you are meant to be happy. This is meant to make you happy, and you will make other people happy. You won't have followed your life path until you integrate the emotional side of this. So you're very much in your mind, and no criticism meant I'm extremely in my mind. So I know that energy, so I'm not being critical, but this is saying that your life path is also about connection with others, and it's a bit disconnected. So some of the pioneering here might be just the courage to go out and really connect with others because you really know yourself very, very well. And that will actually make you emotionally a very good person to be around. Again, as long as you don't suddenly get self-conscious. But this is the transformation for you now. It's to come out from the mastery of self to learning how to master the connections with others. And it may feel unfamiliar at first. This is what this is pioneering to be connected more to others. This is what this is talking about. And that, again, is why maybe the impasse is when one gets too self-conscious. So what does your spirit team want to say to you about with that? Ten of Coins, Eight of Cups reversed, Four of Swords, King of Swords reversed, the Hermit. Okay, I think this group's quite shy, actually. And sometimes that's misunderstood. And sometimes you misunderstand it as well. You're meant to be heading towards some really lovely relationships and real security. And like you are the pioneer to set up the new community, the new families, the new everything, whatever this is, whether it's a new job, a new relationship, new social group, or whatever, you're meant to create a legacy and something that is nourishing to others. And you're not meant to give up on this ever. This is your calling. You are meant to create a legacy of some sort. But you're a bit self-effacing and you much prefer this meditative state. Like, can I just meditate it, please? But you can't just do that. Pile two, you are meant to go out and do something. And so it's sort of like you're going to have to get out of your head because it makes you too self-conscious and be less a hermit and be more out in the world. So this is you're very spiritually developed. You're very, very self-honest. You know yourself really well. You're very clear, but you're disconnected. And the real journey for you now is to go out and be with others because you've done a lot of work on yourself and you're a very pure energy. That's what the world needs, and we need people like you to be out connecting with others. But yeah, you're kind of self-effacing, and this is asking you to be just a little bit more out in the world and to stick with the kind of emotional stuff. Yes, it feels a bit messier because you can't go to the still point, but you know what? You can really do this. Okay, so let's see what kind of like balancing energies you need to have for each stage. So the one that you're really good at the moment, the kind of being within the stillness, that kind of point, the haven. Remembering that you can always go back to that haven whenever you need to, as long as it doesn't take you away from people altogether. But what's the balancing energy there? Reflection, outward and inward, yeah. It's like you have to balance the outward with the inward. It's been pretty clear here. You're very good at the inward. What about the outward? Then the pioneering, when you go, okay, I'll move away from the haven and I'll go off and I'll be in the world and with people. What are you balancing then? Forgiveness, withholding and releasing. Okay, so you may in fact have withdrawn because you were hurt. Remember, it looked like maybe a disappointment. Like you deal with disappointments that way. If you go back out into the world again with trust and faith, then you're forgiving the energy before and you're opening yourself up again. So you instead of withholding but just being within yourself, you're actually releasing that energy again. And then what do you have to balance to make sure that you don't get too self-conscious and sort of stuck in a bit of a rut or an impasse? Priestess, ignorant or wise. Okay, this is, okay. You are very spiritual. You're very, very good at this. But if it's only within yourself and you're not getting the balance of outward and inward, and if you're holding on to pain and not being out in the world, then you're keeping yourself in a kind of ignorance. You're keeping yourself so self-conscious, you're stuck. Wisdom is wisdom is to focus more outward, focus more on the journey and less on yourself. Have faith in yourself because you already have what you need within you, and you do have the wisdom within you, but you've got to actually trust that and go with that, part two. So let's get you some astrology pairings for that. So what's a planetary pairing around your extremely good meditation practice or whatever it is that you do? Venus and Chiron. Yeah, this is the way you heal. And it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful thing. And it heals the heart. And if you use that for that, that's fine, as long as it doesn't make you shy of going out into the world. That's where you really can use it very, very well. When you go out and pioneer, you've got Uranus and Pluto. That's when you can really change, transform, release, do all those sort of things. That's the true journey. That's the big change for you. And it is a big change. And then what energy do you need to deal with to not get caught in the impasse? Sun and Uranus. Yeah, like your life path is about change. It can't just stay in the mind. It can't just stay in the haven. This is also going out and bringing change in some way because you're a pioneer. This is a pioneering kind of energy. Is remembering this is your life path. Even if sometimes it hurts, but when you know that you can actually go back within that and heal, but you're meant to keep moving forward and not lose faith because you really are meant to create a legacy, part two. Okay, so let's get you a wild card for each of the stages as well. So around the haven, what's a wild card energy there? Gift, revelation, find the truth, unpredicted offering. Yeah, you have a true gift. You're very, very good at this. What about a wild card around the pioneer? I am searching, initial project, learning, training, blessing of loneliness. Yeah, there is a sort of a thing of like, do you feel like you'd be on your own or whatever? I don't think you will for long, actually. But oddly enough, because you're in some ways comfortable with being alone, you can search, and that's good. But it is searching for the heart, you see. It's like, I'm now searching outside. I've come through the dark mirror and I'm searching. So then the impasse. What is the wild card you need to be aware of? That might be a bit of a sign when that's happening. Fallen angel, pride, black sheep. Okay, yeah. So if you feel victimized, if you feel like you're the black sheep, if you feel like you're being misunderstood, these are all times, or if you're fearful of that, then that is the thing that will catch you in the patterns that cause an impasse rather than letting you move forward. Yeah, and maybe you've had some programming from others to tell you that what you're doing was wrong or whatever, but it wasn't. There's a real beautiful energy within you. So this is like how you move forward and you create something new with that. But you could, if it becomes this is what you're proud of, you may get so good at it that you slow yourself down. Sometimes you just got to go into the Six of Swords reverse. You've got to go into that which is unknown and be okay with that and to trust that you can do it. Okay, so to finish off, I'm going to get you a synchronicity or a sign that could come from the dream world because we're using the Somnia Oracle and the Somnia Tarot, so very dream oriented. I want you to choose a number between 1 and 3, and that will be your sign or synchronicity that could turn up in a dream for you, could turn up in a meditation or a shamanic journey, could even turn up in the material world as some sort of synchronicity you see. So if you chose number 1, we have stove, love and romance. Ooh. If you chose number 2, we have art. And if you chose number 3, we have bones. Okay, so if you chose number 1, stove, love, romance, new ideas, creativity, passion, opportunity. Like you probably are very inspirational and you probably have lots of wonderful, beautiful new ideas and you're probably quite artistic, particularly with that sort of Venusian energy around the healing here. But I think this is saying something needs to be cooking. You can't and get into the kitchen and create something. Don't just don't obsess over the recipe. Actually go and create something, whether it's a love relationship, where this is getting over a broken heart and this is all about getting out in the world and being less self-conscious. And you will, if that's the case, you're going to find the one. Pile 2, like with the 10 of Cups and the 10 of Pentacles. So it's time to get cooking. But whatever it is, it's time to get cooking. If you chose number 2, art, instinct, authenticity, creative expression, power, catharsis, you may be very artistic. That may be why you go within, but you're going to do something new, different. Don't get too self-conscious about the fact that it's different. Just have faith in it and move forward. And if you chose number 3, bones, the past, secret, structure, foundation, core values, this is, I think, really, this is something very intrinsic to you. But what I feel like the bones, it tells us 2 things. One is that this is of the material world. It's not just the metaphysical world. This is now bringing into the bones, the kind of the material world. So you do need to kind of flesh it out in a way. The other one is that bones, they're strong. Don't underestimate your strength. You have a great deal of strength and your bones all work well together. But again, as I was saying with your body, if you're too self-conscious of it, then, we probably go a bit mad. If we had to think about our bones and how they were all working all the time, that would be overwhelming as well. This is kind of telling you at your core, you're strong and flexible and able to move forward. And you're not self-conscious about you. We don't think about the fact we've got a skeleton within us. So I think it's like, don't be too self-conscious. Know that you have the strength and flexibility and move forward. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the reckoning. And I actually think there's quite a specific meaning to this particular reading. So I'll say what I think that is. And if that doesn't resonate, maybe try one of the others. I think this is a reading for people who are creative or who are artists in some way. It may, as we use the tarot, also point to doing this in some sort of work situation or some sort of political, social situation or spiritual. But in combination, these 3 cards seem to talk to me. These are both about kind of creating art in many ways. And this is about understanding your life and making the choices and understanding that you are in a continuum, you need to move forward and choices will be made and some you will make and others will make others and so forth, and like being really aware of where you are in this space and time. Whereas these are both almost about the artistic process. Now, as I said, you don't have to be an artist in the classic sense for this to be your reading, but if you don't feel as though you're at a point of taking a lot of your experience and your energy and so forth and creating something out of it, like as a catharsis, as like kind of an integration, a catharsis and an expression in some way, and that there isn't a balance, a beauty and a balance you're trying to bring with it to make it part of kind of why you're here, and a true understanding of yourself and why you're here and an expression of that. And this probably isn't your reading because, like, so if that doesn't resonate, but if that resonates in whatever way it is, that's what this is talking about. Because the catharsis is, just as she is playing a piano, it's talking about our creative expression and how we actually process and transform, our experience, our feelings, all of those sort of things into inspiration, into expression in some way. So, and it's interesting because she's near a sea, so there's emotion there, but she's also on land, so there's the grounding of that. And it's sort of, if you think about it, then we have, with music, we have a kind of a marriage of air, which is the mind, and fire, which is creativity. So all the elements in a way are portrayed there. So it's an integration of those, and it's a sense of recognition of what needs to be cleared and then what needs to be created out of where we've come from. Then this is like with the reckoning, it's an awareness that we're still on a continuum, and where are we going to now? And it's a kind of this card talks about that moment of clarity when you realize that you are a creature in progress. And it's interesting, I can relate to that, because like for some reason the other day when I woke up, I was sort of lying and thinking about myself when I was, I don't know, in my early 20s or something. This is a long time ago because I'm in my 60s now. And I thought, that person does not exist anymore, like in any real sense. Yes, I am the same person. I am the person there, but I am so different now in pretty much every aspect. They even say that our cells renew every 7 years. So this sort of sense that we exist as one consciousness, but we are in a continuum, and even our bodies and our circumstances and everything changes. That's kind of amazing in a way to think about. It was like just one of those sort of moments of recognition of, I'm not that person anymore in any real sense at all. And 10 years from now, I won't be the person who's talking to you now. And we're all like that. So I feel like there's a kind of a creative understanding of that we are a consciousness in process, and that there's no choice about that. Like we can't not be a consciousness. So that's kind of interesting, and it becomes a kind of inspirational energy. But then we have duality, and duality here is, there's many ways that duality operates spiritually, psychologically, all of those things. But what this is talking about, again, is a creative process, a bit like, we've almost got the two fingers, almost like the finger of God leading to Adam. And was that Michelangelo? I think it was a Michelangelo painting. But nevertheless, they're pointing towards each other, and it's representing graceful insight and unyielding strength. So it's the concept of the inspiration and the strength to see it through. And that's the duality this is specifically talking about, grace under pressure, really. So there's a kind of a sense of, there's a ticking time clock going on at the moment, and that doesn't mean you have to be my age, for this reading to make sense. But we are on a bit of a time continuum. At least in this body and in this life, we have a particular time. I believe in many lives, but at this point. And there is a self-expression that we need to be able to somehow balance our graceful insight with our strength to see that through. So I think it's a profoundly artistic message, but it's also profoundly spiritual. It's a bit of both. So let's have a look at what on each aspect, and we're going to start here because I always feel like it's starting here and then move our way through to see what tarot wants to tell us. So what does your spirit team want to talk to you about? The catharsis process, the process of expressing and transmuting and creating out of all that you have been. I think that's what this is talking about. What does your spirit team want to say to you about that? Eight of Swords, Temperance, Seven of Swords, Nine of Cups reversed, Two of Coins. Okay. So you are someone, I think, who creates, in whatever form your creativity is, kind of as a way to free your mind and see things and free yourself from any kind of mental traps and to bring yourself into balance. So I feel that when this occurs, when you need to be really aware of yourself and time and choice and all that kind of thing, it's when you feel a bit trapped, where you feel like I've got caught in a situation where I'm just seeing the world in one way and I now have to see it in a broader way. I have to balance it. And you have this sort of creative alchemy to do that. You also have the cleverness to do it. So there's like, it's not just an artistic thing. That's why music works really perfectly for this, because it is the mind and it is understanding and awareness and consciousness. But the musical energy brings all the elements together alchemically, and it has a cleverness to it. It kind of like, it brings to the creativity, the structure, the form, the perfect mathematics, all the kind of things, the music of the spheres. So that energy, like there's something very musical in this, I think, for you. Like music is actually a really good way for you to process this information. And some of it is about considering the difference between the dream and the choice, and how far your choices took you to a dream. So if you see the reckoning here, okay, like it's a bit like a midlife crisis. I'm not saying you're having a midlife crisis, but it's just an example where you had all these sort of dreams and aspirations and ideas, and you're now actually kind of assessing through a kind of creative process, how much did my choices take me where I wanted and where did it fall short? And then you have the reckoning, which is, okay, I'm still on the continuum. What can I do in the time that I have left? So let's have a look at the reckoning then. If we see it in that way, that this is sort of, you use your creative process here, or your introspective process, or whatever it is, to see the difference between the dream and the reality and how your choices have impacted that. So then you have the reckoning. Okay, this is where I'm up to. How much further do I have to go? We have the Four of Coins, Judgment reversed, Five of Coins reversed, the Devil, Four of Cups reversed. Okay. So the reckoning for you, the thing that your spirit team want you to understand, is you've got a good foundation. So you've done quite a bit towards the Nine of Cups. It might be reversed there, but you've actually gone quite a fair way towards what you want. You still have some time. The ultimate calling of what this is all about has yet to come. And it's probably saying the reckoning has yet to come. When the reckoning comes, it'd be a bit like Judgment being upright, where you might have an opportunity, a calling, a direction that you've got to decide pretty quickly, and then move with it. But I think it's saying you're more in this stage at the moment, but this is coming. The good news is that you won't be alone. I mean, here the person's got someone actually taking the sort of carriage forward, but you won't be alone, and you won't be without resources, because you really do have a good foundation there. But you do need to think about, where could you trap yourself in the disappointment of how far you've come, as opposed to moving forward. So again, it is a bit like a midlife crisis. I'm not saying that's the age you're at, but it's like when we get to a midlife crisis, part of what we're doing is going, oh, by now I thought I'd be here, and oh, I'm only here, or whatever, or I thought I'd have achieved this, or I'd feel better about this, or whatever it might be. That's the kind of thing where you get a reckoning, where you're feeling, you're looking at it through the lens of lack. I think what your spirit team's asking you to do is say, don't get trapped in that. You've actually got a really good foundation, and you'll be drawn towards the right people. You've just got to keep the faith. This is the insight and the unyielding strength that you're being asked to deal with in duality. So what would we get with duality, therefore? Page of Wands, King of Swords reversed, the World reversed, Ace of Coins reversed, Ace of Swords. Okay. This is definitely where you are at the moment. There's the aha moment where you start to go, okay, now what am I going to do with my time? You will then get to this. You haven't got there yet, but there is huge potential there, both materially and also about what you believe and how you want to view and think about the world. But they haven't got there yet. So that's okay. That's where you're heading. And this is preparing you for that. When you get there, this is where the creativity really comes into being, where you really know what it is you're trying to create. Because I think what this is sort of saying, with the King of Swords reversed here, it's like one of the aha moments you'll have through this process is that what you thought your dream was, or what you thought you wanted to create, and what you actually do create and really want to create are different. So you really, just as it started with the Eight of Swords, like this whole process was triggered by feeling trapped to some degree by your own thinking. By the time you go through that, you'll think, actually, I might have thought that I wanted at this stage in my life to be a world-class singer, and to be seen, and have like concerts everywhere and be the second Taylor Swift or something like that. But you know what? Now I'm here, I know that's actually not what I wanted. And like a lot of the choices I made took me somewhere else, because I would much prefer to not be on the stage. I'd much prefer to be the person writing the music, because that actually suits me better and I can have more creative freedom. It's just an example. But there's sort of like, I think when you get here and you think, where does my inspiration and where my strength and where I would not yield and where I would not compromise and where I will actually move forward, I'm actually realizing my creative energy, what I'm here for, what I want to do is a bit different to what I thought. And there's stuff to do still because of that. But you know what? Now I know what it is, materially and also kind of in belief. So this is a shifting of the course, interestingly enough, or recognizing the course for the first time. So I feel that it's a deeply creative process. But what you're dealing with right now is there's the difference between what you thought the dream was and what your choices have brought you to. And then there's the process of understanding why you actually made the choices, because that was to bring you to where you are now and what you can do with that. So really interesting. So let's have a look at what kind of like balancing energies are operating with each of these. So what kind of energy do you balance in this stage that you're in right now, I think, which is the catharsis and the kind of creative expression of how far you've come and what you might want to do next. You're balancing security, insecure and safe. Like, yeah, some of what you might have done and some of how you might have fallen short on what maybe your vision was making decisions that were more materially secure. And you're looking at that and trying to determine, what does that mean? Does that mean that that's an important thing? I think what's good is at the reckoning, you'll realize that you do have a good foundation. You are secure and you're not alone. So if that was a fear, it doesn't need to be a fear anymore, or it's one that you've already got covered. So now you can really start to think. But this is saying that some of the difference between the dream and the reality was the price of security. So what about the reckoning, when you realize where you're up to now and where you think you're actually naturally headed? You're balancing growth, so dying and evolving, letting go of that which is not the truth so that you can evolve into what the truth is. And then when you're kind of in duality and you're looking at what is both inspiring you and also what is giving you strength. Receptivity, dissatisfied, grateful. Yeah, this is understanding it. Moving from, a lack mentality of I didn't get all that I wanted to actually understand this was exactly what I needed. And then you can move forward with the strength and the belief in what you do. Okay, so let's get you some planetary pairings for that. So what's the planetary pairing around understanding the role of security, I think, around the choices that you've made? Venus and Saturn, what is a secure, emotional and artistic choice? And that can limit us sometimes with Saturn, or it can slow us down, but it also gets the balance and the beauty that we want. So what are the kind of limitations or the security, like the foundational things that you need to be able to go forward and be who all you could be? Then when we have a look at the reckoning, when you're trying to work, okay, now how do I evolve and work with that? We have Mars and Jupiter, and it's almost the opposite thing. It's going from the beauty of the artistic expression with the foundation into now I'm going to act and I'm going to expand. It's time to expand my horizon. So it's giving yourself a new lease on life around all of that. And then when you go, okay, this is where the graceful wisdom and the strength is, we have Moon and Uranus, and that's where you feel the inspiration. The inspiration to do the change that is necessary. What's interesting in all of these readings actually is Uranus has come up. I do think your spirit team were wanting to talk to people today about fundamental inspired change. But this is because you're very artistic and understanding what your true inspiration is, it becomes very authentic and very emotional. So that's a very positive sort of energy. Let's see a wild card energy around it as well. So a wild card energy around that security, the art and creativity and a security. I am at peace, feeling at home, finding serenity, being within myself. Like this process, this catharsis makes you feel at peace, makes you understand and makes you feel at home where you are. So then with the reckoning about, well, where do I go from here? We have, wow, I am reborn. So recovery, rejuvenation, return from the past, resurrection. It's like, it's realizing that like the choices did not take you in the wrong place or the lesser place. They actually took you to a better place. And then when you recognize that and you move with the true inspiration, the wild card around that, where do I fish? So what do I do next? Self-made person, intuition versus rationality, creative brain, logical brain. It's like, creative brain and logical brain, the graceful sort of wisdom and the sort of strength, all the duality things. But this is like, once you realize that and you realize that there's still many open vistas for you, then you go, well, what am I going to do next? Where am I going to fish? What am I going to do? So this is reviving the sense of enthusiasm for the creative soul, I think. Okay. So last but not least, we're going to look for a synchronicity sign or something like that. Could show up in dreams. So I'm using dream imagery because we have the Somnia Oracle and the Somnia Tarot, Somnia meaning dreams. It could also show up in song lyrics or other things like that, or it could just tell us a little bit more about this particular set of messages for you. But choose a number between 1 and 3 because depending upon which you choose, that will be your synchronicity or sign. And pause if you need to because I'm about to deal out. So for number 1, we have leg. For number 2, oh, this is funny when this one comes out, toilets. And for number 3, blood. Okay. So if you chose number 1, forward motion, confidence, mobility, autonomy, this really is meant to be a message to make you feel confident and start moving forward. And I think it's almost saying with this that you could get out and you could go on the journey yourself. You don't necessarily need the carriage. Your own legs will take you where you need to go. But there's certainly a sort of sense of momentum. And if you dream about, walking or running or things like that, or you see, wonderful footwear or things that are about exercise or whatever as a synchronicity, take it as a sign you're heading in the right direction. If you chose number 2, detox, catharsis, it's catharsis. It's another form of catharsis, shame, embarrassment, cleansing, renewal. I think it's just basically saying you might have a dream. I mean, every once in a while I have a dream that I'm trying to find a toilet. Normally it means when I wake up I actually need to go to the toilet, but it is a dream that I will have sometimes. So you may dream about that, or you may have the sense that part of this is to let go of that which is no longer going to serve you, that which is refuse. It is certainly saying that this is about cleansing and renewal. Don't feel, because remember we had I am reborn. Don't feel that this is that what you're letting go of was somehow refuse. It's just letting go of the past so you can move into the future. The third one, if you chose number 3, blood, feeling, passion, vitality, strength, wounds, danger. You may feel there's some wounds and danger, but remember you've got this sort of like the strength coming through. I think this is something that was in your blood, your creative energy, who you're meant to be. It's all in your blood. And if you think about it, you'll see patterns in your ancestry, all of that kind of thing that show you what you're meant to create and who you're meant to be and why it's a bit different to what you thought, but why it's perfect. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.